Welcome to Sigma Solver guys. Before I start the video, I want you guys to smash the like button. This helps the YouTube algorithm and keeps me motivated. And if you are new here, then subscribe to my channel and press the bell icon so that you never miss an update. So without any further ado, let's get started. Today we are going to look at another problem which is taken from SIER concept coming from modeling and simulation, right? So we'll go and read the question first and then resolve the problem step by step. In a small town with population 25,000 people, an infectious disease has begun to spread. Initially, only a few individuals are infected. The disease spreads through contact, but individuals pass through a latent period during which they are infected but not showing symptoms or transmitting the infection. That is, this disease has an incubation period as well, during which the individuals are infected but not yet infectious, right? Once they recover, some individuals become immune while others eventually lose their immunity and become susceptible again. The task is to model the spread of the disease using the SIER model, which introduces an additional compartment for individuals who are exposed to the disease but not yet infectious. Discuss all biological states of the model. So the later part of the problem is going to be more theoretical, but let's begin step by step. So the first thing is like this problem requires us to model the spread of an infectious disease as stated in the SIER model. Now we'll understand the components of this SIER model one after the other. It consists of four major compartments. The first one being susceptible. So individuals who have not been yet exposed to the disease but are at the risk of infection are called susceptible. So how do we distinguish from that is, if let's say a person is not at the risk of getting this infection anytime soon, so it will not happen. So let's suppose a disease that happens only to the men, so all the female population is basically not susceptible to that disease, right? Next is the exposed. I would have made I before, but no issues. Exposed E, individuals who have been infected but not yet infectious, right? So if we try to understand, the first phase of infection related symptoms is going to be susceptibility, then exposure. So in this phase, individuals may have been infected whether they know or not, but they are not yet infectious to the other people around them. This represents the incubation period. Next, the infectious period. So individuals who have become infectious and who can spread the disease are basically belonging to the infectious period. Last one is the recovered phase. So individuals who have recovered from the disease. Now this can lead to two major states basically. One is permanently immune and the other one is may lose immunity. So let's suppose person A developed the antibody for this disease and permanently became immune, right? He will never fall again into the susceptible criteria discussed above, right? He is now permanently recovered and will not fall into the cycle again. But if suppose there is another person and once he somehow loses his immunity, then if he is around the infectious people for this same disease, then basically he is falling again to the susceptible criteria of population. So now we have understood the different components of this model. We'll start to figure out the mathematical implications and equations that we can derive from this. So the mathematical representation is using differential equation, the rate of growth of susceptible population. Now this growth term can be either positive or negative. So positive growth or negative growth is determined by minus times of beta Si, where S is the number of susceptible population and I is the number of infected individuals at that time. Then same is for dE by dt, which is equal to beta Si minus sigma times E, right? So this equation is for the rate of change of exposed individuals. Next is the rate of change of infected individuals. So for that it is sigma times E minus gamma times I. Now you see we are using constants in all components of the equation to regulate the parameters so that it best matches the actual data. Last is the rate of change of recovered individuals. So for that it's simply gamma times number of infected individuals at that time t. So now we'll understand the constants and what they mean. So here beta is basically the transmission rate. So if we go above, so we can see that beta here denotes the transmission rate of the infection. Next is the sigma. So this is the rate at which exposed individuals become infectious. Now transmission rate was primarily for transmitting the infection from one person to the another, and sigma primarily denotes the rate at which exposed individuals, so E is becoming I. That rate is what we have marked by sigma. Next is gamma. So gamma is basically the recovery rate, or the rate at which you can say I changes to R, right? An individual who is in the I category of population comes to R is denoted by the constant gamma. Next we come to the flow of compartments that is required. So if we look at it, the first component is obviously susceptible because the entire infection cycle starts from here. So from there we go to the exposed part using the transmission rate, then from exposed part to infected part using this sigma rate which we just discussed, and then from infected rate to recovery using gamma, right? Now from recovery, if we look it carefully, we can see that we may land to the permanent immunity category of individuals, right? Also what can happen is from the recovery state we go to this waning immunity state. So basically a temporary immunity state, and from there also there are two ways. So one is that we eventually develop a permanent immunity state in the body and then reside in permanent immunity criteria. Otherwise, if the immunity loosens out, then we again fall to the susceptible criteria of population. And this particular scenario occurs from the loss of immunity. So if suppose a person loses immunity, he can either become directly exposed by getting the infection, or he may be first become susceptible and then following along with the beta rate to the exposed section and so on. So that was the flow of components that we will have in this particular SIER model. Next, we try to summarize of what we derived this far. Is in modeling and simulation we always have direct assumption and indirect assumption. So in this case the direct assumption is obviously that the disease spreads from one person to another person, while in reality it may happen that it spreads from one to many person, right? So those assumptions are direct in nature. And indirect assumption is basically we always consider an infected individual to go to the recovery state, but it may happen that due to very weak immunity the person may never recover, or even the disease can be fatal, right? So those scenarios are basically the indirect assumptions that we take during modeling and simulation. Next we discuss the biological states of the SIER model. So we need to describe the dynamics of the disease spread over time. So first is the disease free equilibrium. So disease free equilibrium, or DFE as they say it, is when the disease is completely eradicated from the population. At this time, or I'll say at this equilibrium, number of infected individuals is 0 and number of exposed individuals is also 0. Note that number of susceptible individuals may not be 0, right? So the system reaches a stable steady state where the population is either fully susceptible or recovered. So neither susceptible is completely zero nor recovered is completely zero, but one of them can be zero, right? So entire population is susceptible or entire population is recovered. Next is the endemic equilibrium. So this occurs when the disease persists in the population at a stable level, and if we think about it, at equilibrium, S, E, I and R, none of them will be equal to 0, because there will always be some persons who are susceptible, some who are exposed, some who are in line infected, and some who have just recovered, right? So the idea is to make the model considering the disease to stay in the population for long periods of time. Certain proportion remains infected over time, right? They become infected, then may recover, but they'll again become infected, like this. So disease doesn't die out. This is the main concept behind endemic equilibrium, is the disease will not die out but remains endemic with a constant fraction of infected individuals. Next, we come to the epidemic growth phase, which is the initial outbreak. A real world example of this one is basically COVID-19. So this happens when an infection is introduced to a fully susceptible population, which had happened, right? So the growth is experienced at an exponential rate. The infected individuals increase rapidly, leading to the outbreak. And this phase is governed by the basic reproduction number rule, which is R naught equals beta by gamma, where beta and gamma hold their respective meaning as discussed above, and R naught will always be greater than 1 when the disease is in a phase of spreading out, right? So you can say that beta is higher and gamma is lower, which kind of makes sense because beta is the transmission rate and gamma is basically the recovery rate. So it gives us a sense that the disease is going to spread in the future and more number of individuals will become infected. The other part, which is if R naught equals less than 1, where gamma exceeds beta, so we will say that number of infected individuals is going to decrease in near future. Consequently, the infection is seen as in a dying out situation right now. Next is the peak of infection, which is also called maximum infected phase. So in this case, after a certain period, the number of infected individuals is going to reach a peak, right? So that number is going to reach a peak where it's like it will not go any above, right? The rate of new infection slows down as more people become exposed and infectious. Now this can be due to multiple reasons, maybe rapid vaccination, or maybe the entire population is now in a phase of infection, right? So although it's rare, but it may happen. In that case, we can mathematically say that the rate of change of infected individuals in the population is 0, or I'll say nearly 0. And the important criteria that we get out of this discussion is basically the growth and decline of infection balance each other out in this particular phase, which is max infected phase, right? So neither the number of infected individuals is reducing nor it's increasing. So it's kind of stuck into a straight line. The fifth one is basically the design decline phase and is marked by recovery and immunity. So as I said just now, this is going to be marked by the number of infected individuals reducing rapidly. Individuals recover and move to the R compartment, and then there is this particular wedge. So immunity can be either long lasting, leading to a DFE state, or it can be short term, where the individuals return to the susceptible pool for future outbreaks or other discussed states above, right? That's why in these cases you can see, like if the number of infected individuals after vaccination is seen to increase, then most likely they'll ask for a second dose of vaccination to further reduce the number of antigens that are causing this outbreak. Next, we go to the oscillatory behavior. Now this is something where we kind of oscillate between states of infection and recovery. So in some cases immunity wanes over time and the disease can exhibit oscillatory dynamics. The population cycles between outbreaks and low infection periods. So as we can see that there are viral flu and other sorts of diseases which outbreak during a particular season, right? So they exhibit this oscillatory dynamics, since for some seasons they have low infection period and for others they mass spread across the population. Now one excellent example of this one is going to be influenza. Periodic waves occur due to loss of immunity, as I just stated. So that was how we define the different biological states for SIER model. Now if we want to understand the different stabilities that are involved and do a stability analysis for this, I'll highly recommend to check out my stability analysis video referred in the I button here, right? So in that way you will be able to understand how to tackle the different states of equilibrium that are attained and map to different stability values. And as a practice exercise you can apply that same logic to this problem as well. So that's been it. If you still have any doubts, then feel free to reach out in the comment section below. If you liked this video, then give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for the upcoming videos. Till then, happy solving.
Hey there, before you go, I've got some fantastic content lined up for you. Over here, we've got some videos and playlists you might enjoy. But first, if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so that you never miss out on any of our future uploads. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.